Guys, thank you for doing this. I know it's been a long couple years. I want to just talk just the moment you hear not guilty. What is your reactions? Because you looked obviously stoic, but there has to be a lot going through your head.
Well, as for me, the verdicts were first read for me. And so, I had that sense of relief. But the most important thing for me was these other two officers too as well. Make sure that they were going to be good. So I really didn't get to experience that relief until until they finished reading all of the verdicts at that time.
For me, the verdict was finally a moment for me to have some clarity and know that my family, my wife, my son's too young to know anything that's going on, but mostly my mom, my dad, my brothers, just everybody in my family can have that relief that they don't have to worry about me. They don't have to worry about the aftermath of, in the event that went the other way. It was just a big weight lifted off of my shoulders for them, for their sake, so that they can actually go back to living their lives in peace.
Throughout this whole ordeal, you guys had a lot of support. We saw it in the courtroom. How much did that help y'all get through all of this?
I think that was a very big factor in getting through all of this, knowing, because throughout the last 2.5 years, I think it was completely opposite of that, at least from a lot of the public's perception. And I base that because of a lot of the false narratives, stories that were being put out there, and things that we just couldn't control from our end. And so seeing that during court, it just really played a big factor in making us feel like we're not alone in this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of the same for you?
The exact same. Support system was great all the way through. Had family, friends, people that wanted to be there were there. And those that couldn't be there, they showed their support in many different ways, but it was all appreciated, and it definitely kept us moving forward throughout the whole entire ordeal.
How do you handle that public perception? Because there was a narrative that was put out to the media and to everybody with what that was, they thought was what happened. How do you handle that? Because a lot of it is negative.
Right.
It's got to weigh on you heavily.
And it does. I think for me, I had to just shut it off, completely turn off the narratives, especially knowing that those those within the department, or even people that don't know me, had to believe a story or different stories that actually did not happen. And that was difficult, especially when my family members had to hear terms like gunned down inside the apartment, or she's holding a hammer inside the apartment, just these things that did not actually happen. So I had to come to a point where I just had to shut all of that off, turn it all off, and even tell some of my family members, it's probably best that we don't follow any of these stories that are out there.
For me, it was mostly a lot of, immediately after, received death threats, harassment, stuff like that. It was, it's one of those things as far as taking on the job and knowing what the job was at the time. You kind of expect those things. It's not a fan favorite profession as far as the majority speaks, but throughout it all, I mean, disassociating with the false narratives, or the I wouldn't say false, but the lack of information that was released. I knew what happened that night. Obviously, with an ongoing trial, you can't speak about certain things, certain topics. A lot of family, friends, just trying to explain that to them with the limited amount that you can speak over it and what is out there. It was just one of those things you had to just take, and you really couldn't push back on it. But just like Flores said, it's some of those topics where I would just say, hey, I either respect you enough to not go into this, or we're going to wait until everything is presented, and then we can discuss it later if you'd like. And thankfully, I have a lot of good friends. I have a lot of good family. I have a lot of understanding people in my life that I come across, and they could accept that as an answer for the time being. And as everything unfolded, they call me, they say they're sorry, they apologize, that's what their initial thoughts were. I'm surprised more than not, actually, a lot of people called me saying the exact opposite. They knew that was never the case. They knew that what type of individual I was growing up, through all of my education. They're like, you've always been such a great person to us. We know what kind of human being you are. They're like, we knew this was a misinformation from the start. So it's just, you take the good with the bad, and it was definitely hard, but I'm going to say at the end of it all, looking back on it all and having that support, it made it just a little bit easier.
Going back to that night, obviously nobody thinks when you go to a scene, this is how it's going to end up.
Of course not.
How was that for you guys? I mean, obviously the fact you're facing at the time charges, and then there is a woman who did die, that's got to weigh on you as well.
Absolutely. Well, for me, it was my first ever officer-involved shooting at the time, with almost 15 years on in the department. So leaving the scene and having to go home, I'm still trying to process, the shooting itself. Never been directly involved in a shooting like that, or any shooting at all. So I'm still trying to process, the incident. But then shortly after, taking a small nap, having to wake up, getting a phone call that I'm having to turn myself in. So, at the time of the incident, all I can remember is, when you have to make that split-second decision, you're in survival mode. Like, you have to fend for your life in that moment. It's very real. There's no training in the world that can be given that can compare to the reality of what goes on in that moment. So you're in that survival mode. But then having to wake up, still trying to process what just happened, and then waking up and still living in that survival mode, because we're now facing these horrific criminal charges against us. That survival mode lasted for 2.5 years, and so I know you're asking in that day, but it really, for me, was that one day lasted for almost 2.5 years. Yeah.
I know a lot of us, when we were sent the body cam footage for the first time, it was a snapshot, because there was so much more that we didn't see until trial. One of the things that caught me was how quickly you guys went inside to try to render aid. That was never something that you just hesitated on.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's part of the job as well, right?
Absolutely. It's no one's intention to take life. Our job is to preserve life to the best of our abilities, regardless of what the outcome might look like, regardless of what that person did prior to that incident. Our job isn't to take life. I'm a very, not very religious, but I do like to think that I practice and try to do the best as far as what the Lord tells me to do. And I don't mean to get like really into that, but you don't lie, steal, cheat, or kill. Like, there's certain things that you're not supposed to do. I live by that. So for that never was an option. I never wanted that to be the end result. Wanted her to, we wanted to find the most peaceful means possible in order to get the objective accomplished. But that's part of the job. And once we are where we are, we have to make sure that we do everything we can, absolutely everything that we can, to preserve that life. Every life is special. So, do
you ever wonder or go back, like, would I've done something differently that night for either of you?
I don't. That's never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever thought about that. The thing that I do think about is what others could have done differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's crossed my mind in the last 2.5 years.
Because y'all weren't the first on the scene.
No, we were not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I always kind of reiterate and try to reiterate in our storytelling that it was almost 2 hours before y'all got to scene.
Right.
Sure.
It was very emotional last day in court for both sides, for deliberations and everything. I know Tom went up there and gave a very emotional closing to the Perez family. If you could say something to the Perez family here, I know we heard it from Tom, but she does have family that was there and were very invested, and obviously they did lose somebody. What would you say now to them?
What I would say is, as a former member of the San Antonio Police Department, well, first and foremost, my condolences, not only for myself, but me and my family. But as a former member of the San Antonio Police Department, that if there has not been anyone that has not called you and apologized for some of the misinformation that was conveyed over to you, I want to take that responsibility as a former member of the police department on behalf of the department and give that apology right now, because there shouldn't be one citizen ever be misinformed when something like this happens, and there's a tragedy because of it, and not that that's not something we wanted. That wasn't the desired outcome. But I think that it's important that they know that, and that the facts and the evidence and that was presented throughout trial, that I'm praying and I'm hoping, like I was mentioning yesterday, that in some way will bring closure to this whole ordeal.
For me, to the family, Eleazar said it best yesterday. Whatever form, however they perceive this whole entire ordeal, the outcome of it, that whatever their cope for closure is for them, if it's hating me, if it's whatever, that I welcome that. But I say that in the sense of I have nothing but love, respect, and my heart definitely goes out to them. My condolences from the bottom of my heart and my family's. Nobody wants this. Nobody expected this. But at the end of the day, I will always project love outwards in any way possible. And I do extend the olive branches. If there's anything I could ever do for them, I'd be more than happy to. I have nothing but love and sympathy for them, and I hope that they find their means of closures, whatever that may be.
What's next for you guys? I know this has been a long journey, and a lot of people wonder, are you going to go back to SAPD? Do you want to be a cop again?
For me, I said this yesterday, I would love nothing more than to serve my community again. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be with SAPD. It could be with whoever, or it could just be my every day-to-day life. But my goal while I was on the department was to serve our members of the community and make their lives easier. If that can be done again through law enforcement, so be it. If not, we'll just see what the future holds in that case.
For me, I take that as two questions. I think my priority is to get into this on the other side of this. I mean, even though we're done with the criminal trial, it's just important for me and my family to actually get on the other side, in the sense that it's still fresh. The whole ordeal is still, it just happened. And so you don't go from 2.5 years of going through an experience to being over with in just 2 days or 3 days after the trial itself. And as far as going back, absolutely. I worked hard to get as a role as a supervisor, so I am looking forward to getting back.
Anything else you guys like to add or like the public to know? I know everybody has an opinion.
Everybody has their opinion and they're entitled to it. I just hope for myself and everybody that is watching, I just would like them to know that for all their opinions, as long as they know all the facts to make that opinion, I can't complain about whatever they say, and I never will.
I think the best way I can answer that is, you could do 100 things right, and it doesn't matter if you do everything right. I think people always find something to look for the wrong, and I'm just praying and I'm hoping that everything that was actually out there, that was the most important thing for me. Nobody wanted to go through trial. Nobody wants to actually go, the whole 9 yards when it comes to trial. But if it took for all the evidence, and the facts, and the right information to be out there, in order for there no longer to be any room for misinformation, then let it be. And I believe that that's what happened. It gave the opportunity to show what in fact was done right.
All right, we're good.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much
guys.
for your time.